A shocking viral video is sweeping across the internet. It's security footage showing a 65-year-old Asian woman, apparently on her way to church, being randomly and brutally beaten by a man in broad daylight on a public sidewalk. The security footage came from a building where there were actually two security guards. Security guards stood there and watched this man brutally beat the woman. And then one security guard walks up, closes the door, and does nothing to help this poor woman who is left with fairly serious injuries, a fractured pelvis, as she writhed in agony in the street. Now, many on the left have been talking about this movement, Stop Asian Hate. Strangely, they've been protesting white nationalism, as if white nationalists all of a sudden are going around attacking random Asian people. As far as I know, that's not necessarily the case. I say necessarily because absolutely there are hate crimes against Asian people, and absolutely white supremacists do it. I just don't think the cases they're focused on have anything to do with white nationalism. In this instance, for example, I don't see conservatives or moderates talking about the race of the individual who beat this woman. I certainly see everyone talking about the race of the woman who was beaten. She's Asian. It fits that narrative. The issue here is that the man who beat her was a black man, and it appears that these security guards may have been as well. I don't think the race of these individuals matter. I think we're all human beings, and we need to focus on the bigger issue as to why these men did not help this woman. And I think there's several issues at play here. A few years ago, I did a story about I did a segment talking about why men refuse to help women and children. And I've seen more and more of these stories. And this, my friends, is just another example. Gender equality, to a certain degree, results in this kind of issue. A man is not going to inject himself into a confrontation or conflict for any reason because the potential for personal liability. It has something to do with this new gender equality movement kind of stuff. Not completely. It has a lot more to do, in my opinion, with litigation, liability, what you may be sued for if you intervene. You may become liable yourself. You could get your company in trouble and you'll probably get fired. You know, maybe it's just me, but I feel like, based on the things I've read about this great nation and our culture, that we used to be a nation of some form of chivalry. A man would see a woman being attacked and he would defend her, and consequences be damned. Perhaps you might get in trouble, but I think most reasonable people would say, hey, listen, if you intervene to help this woman who's being brutally beaten, we're not going to hold it against you. But now we do. There are many stories about this. In fact, here's one that I covered a long time ago that I think is important to actually bring up. Good Samaritan speaks out. I was jailed for doing good. Carl Neal was jailed for 6 years after punching a drug dealer who was attacking a woman in a Nuneaton street. It's a true story. It's from Coventry Live. This man, 6 years in jail. That was his sentence. Why? He saw a drug dealer choking a woman and he punched him in the face. Unfortunately, the drug dealer got severely injured, nearly died. And that means you have to go to prison. Let's read this story about what happened with this Asian woman. And I want to show you exactly what's going on with, I got to be honest, men do not want to intervene to protect anyone anymore. Not every man, not everywhere, but it's becoming worse. It's been almost 3 years since these past few stories I covered. And I got to tell you, I'm not surprised to see the exact same thing happening. Here's the story from the Daily Mail. An Asian woman was on her way to church. Who was on her way to church was attacked by a black man in Midtown Manhattan in broad daylight on Monday, while a couple of security guards from a nearby building did nothing to stop it. Surveillance camera footage from inside the building, where at least 2 guards were on duty, captures the moment a man randomly kicks the woman to the ground before viciously stomping on her head and face at least 3 times. Despite the attack being both vocal by the suspect and the victim screaming, nobody came to her aid, despite her being kicked in full view of those in the neighboring building. Interestingly, we have a photo of what appears to be, they say the suspect was caught clearly on surveillance camera. One of the men appeared to be busy opening up packages while the attack was ongoing. At one point, a second security guard could be seen closing the front door to the premises where the pair were working, completely ignoring the woman who had just been the victim of a savage assault. Neither decided to chase after the suspect, who was still being hunted by police on Monday night. The unidentified suspect allegedly hurled anti-Asian statements as he punched and kicked the 65-year-old woman on West 43rd Street near 9th Avenue just before midday, according to the NYPD. My friends, we are becoming a dull people. We're a silly people. we're also dull. It is silly, in my opinion, that there would be a man brutally beating an elderly woman and these security guards, I mean, they're not just random guys, they're literal security guards, did nothing. Now, to me, that's absolutely silly. But I think the bigger picture here is that we are becoming dull. Dull in terms of our sharpness, our strength, our attitudes. We used to be, at least when you look back at history, a nation of people who were willing to cross over that ocean, risking life and limb, and many people dying on these boats, just to land on a shore with nothing. There's some trees, start building. That's the plan. Pioneers, colonists. These are people that are frowned upon by the modern left. We actually still have, to this day, people who are willing to engage in this. And funny enough, it's illegal immigrants and many asylum seekers, though most of them are not actual asylum seekers, but there are asylum seekers. They travel over mountains, riding on train tops, walking through miles upon miles of desert to come and find that American dream. Yet we here in the United States take this all for granted. That's what's absolutely insane to me about all of this. I think about the stories of these illegal immigrants and their willingness to risk everything just to get to this country. They would die if just for the chance to be here. I respect it. I really do. Now, I don't like the illegal immigration and crossing the border because ultimately it's going to cause harm for everybody. And we don't want people wandering through the desert because they could die. There's a better process. But these people are willing to take that risk. These security guards, they're not willing to risk anything. And many people in this country are willing to risk absolutely nothing at all. They will watch a woman be brutally beaten in the street and they'll say, don't look at me. I'm not getting involved. Why? I'll get in trouble. I'll get fired from my job. Isn't that insane? That's what we've become. They go on to say, F you don't belong here. The man is said to have yelled at the woman. Not only is it this woman being brutally beaten, it's a racist attack, and these guys do nothing. I've seen a lot of people say, well, don't blame them. They're forbidden by their job. They could lose their job. Job be damned. Wouldn't you try to do something if you, what's more important? People are self-interested. They don't fight for their kids. They don't pay attention to elections. They don't care about who's representing them. They won't even intervene to save a woman from a racist attack at a time when Stop Asian Hate has been a trend, has been pushed so heavily in the media for the past several weeks. Now, people just don't care. I got to say it again. These security guards watched a woman be brutally beaten, seriously injured in front of their building, and they did nothing. It's amazing. The woman was taken to NYU Langone Hospital in stable condition, having suffered a fractured pelvis. The suspect was also caught clearly on surveillance camera as he walked away from the scene and appeared to be wearing distinctive blue pants, a maroon scarf, and a beige cardigan. The NYPD's hate crime task force is now investigating the incident. The man appears to be wearing distinctive. So here's the photo of the guy. It's about all we can say about it. But let me show you. Let me show you some stories. I'm going to take you back in time and talk about a problem that is only getting worse. I mentioned this, as I stated earlier on, but I did a story about this a few years ago. Why men are refusing to help women and children. And I think we can expand upon this and say it's only gotten worse and the incentives have only increased. The incentives are for men not to intervene to protect those that they're typically supposed to protect. Let me tell you something that's kind of sad and kind of funny. I got some chickens recently. They're babies. Well, they're not completely babies, but they're very young. They got all their feathers. They're going out doing their chicken thing. And we built this big fence caged, thing around them. And we even have smaller little chicken houses inside because we need to protect them. We don't have roosters. Trust me, this is very, very relevant. We don't have roosters. And the reason is they're just too loud. Because we don't have roosters, we've had to build a very secure, reinforced pen to protect these chickens because they'll be killed. I mean, already a raccoon is trying to break in and kill the chickens. What a jerk. It's funny. The reason I bring this up, I was told that if we had a rooster, just one, we wouldn't actually need the bigger enclosure with the fences because roosters protect their chickens. Roosters go nuts and risk their own lives. Isn't that pathetic? No, I mean, it's amazing for the chickens. But you mean chicken, which is synonymous with being a coward. The rooster will risk more than an adult American male to protect those that are weaker than them. That makes me laugh. I have to look now to a literal chicken society to point out where the males will run full speed and attack a predator and help warn the chickens to run to safety. It's remarkable. It's remarkable, isn't it? We are a complex species. We have very interesting social dynamics that don't exist in the overwhelming majority, 99.99% of the animal kingdom. Now, other creatures on this planet have social structures, but we're very different. We are. Men tend to be larger, tend to be more muscle mass, more bone density. And let me put it this way. There's if you have, I was going to make a Fallout reference, but I'll just go straight to the point. 100 men and 100 women and 99 women die, your society is in very serious trouble because now you can only have one baby every 9 months. But if you have 100 women and 99 men die, you're worse off, seriously worse off. But you can survive because those women can all have kids. You can have 100 kids in 9 months. So your society can survive. It's why it's so important that men protect women. Now, in today's day and age, we got things like guns. And women can get guns and defend themselves. And there's mace and pepper spray and tasers. And to be honest, as a complex society, we have laws prohibiting crimes against other people for any reason. So violent crime has actually gone down. Maybe because of this protection, because we live in such a foofy and pampered society, men no longer need to protect women. And because we've populated this planet as human beings to a very great extent, there's no real risk in the flourishing of a society that does not actually have their males protect their females. Maybe, and I'm going to be completely legit, honest here, it's an obsolete, archaic social construct that a man should protect a woman. But I got to say, maybe a woman should protect a man. Maybe a good person protects another person. Now, look, if the average height and mass and bone density of a woman is lower than that of a man, then I certainly would expect 2 strong, strapping security guards to run out to help this woman, and they didn't do it. That is human society. It's sad, really. Here's the story from Coventry Live. This is from March of 2014. They say, a dad who punched a drug dealer to stop him attacking a woman, says he was jailed for too long for doing a good deed. Good Samaritan Carl Neal was given 6 years after he stepped in to help, flooring the dealer with a single punch, which almost killed him. In a letter written to the Telegraph from prison, he says his sentence was excessive and he questions what he should do in the future if he sees someone being attacked. His victim escaped prosecution because of his injuries. Neal, 23, got involved after he spotted a drug dealer grab the throat of a woman and punch her close to his home in Clarence Street, Nuneaton, last August. He shouted at the dealer before walking up and telling him with just one punch. He threw another punch before walking away. The drug dealer suffered a fracture to the base of his skull and was left fighting for his life. I'm sorry. Now I believe this is the UK. I could be wrong, but I'm sorry, man. If you commit a violent crime against someone and someone uses violence to stop you in defense of themselves or another person, it's your fault. I don't want to act like the UK and the US are the exact same country. They're not. The laws are different, but we share a very serious common culture in many ways, at least. So there are people now who know if they actually step up to protect a woman, you go to prison, man. So why would you do it? And that's exactly what we see. This is the story I had covered a couple of years ago when it came out. Fashion chief executive who was attacked by 6-foot Northern Line tube passenger slams 2 white middle-class men after they walked into next carriage and left her to defend herself. Tamara Sinsik, founder and CEO of Fashion Roundtable, attacked on busy tube. Mother of one kicked and threatened by an unwell 6-foot man as passengers fled. She has slammed 2 white middle-class men who left her to defend herself. And what do you expect? You think I'm going to risk liability to myself? You wanted equality under the law? You got it. It doesn't matter if I'm 6 foot tall. It doesn't matter if I'm muscular. It doesn't matter if I have more bone density or more muscle mass. It doesn't matter. You are on your own. I remember the story from, I think Luke Rutkowski was telling me. You guys know Luke. He was on the IRL podcast for a little bit. He's out traveling around. Who knows what he's doing? Luke, where you at? He's in Florida, actually. But he was telling me he interviewed this guy in New York who was being attacked. Or I'm sorry, there was a guy with a knife attacking people. So this guy intervenes and stops this man and gets stabbed himself. And the police did nothing. They just watched. Why should anybody do anything to intervene to help another person when you could actually be the one facing liability? And that's what's been happening. It's what will happen. Take a look at this. From the Daily Mail, just 1 year ago. It's 29th of January, 2020. Too scared to help. Bystanders refused to carry out CPR on man who had a heart attack and died in Sydney's Chinatown over fears he had the coronavirus. I get it. You're scared. But we're no longer a selfless society. We're an extremely selfish society. You know, I was thinking about the COVID passport things in this context, and I was thinking about what would it take for people in this country to say, I will risk my life for you? I don't know. I don't know. But isn't it sad that a rooster will run into harm's way fighting a predator to protect some chickens? Apparently, we're worse than chickens. Maybe we should stop calling people chicken when they're cowards and start calling them human. Come on, you human. Don't be human, you coward. That's basically it. People get scared and people think about themselves. And they think about, why should I take that risk? Now, it's funny. The story about the guy from a year ago who the people were scared he had COVID, I understand. But I think we have to take some risks to ourselves to help each other. I guess that's just gone from our society at this point. Now, I do think when it comes to this Asian woman being attacked, it's not just about these guys losing their jobs. I think a big factor is the gender equality circumstance. Here's a story from the Harvard Business Review going back to May of 2017. Men shouldn't refuse to be alone with female colleagues. And they reference Mike Pence. You remember this story? Mike Pence was like, I don't need alone with people who aren't with women who aren't my wife. And he was attacked by the left for it. But isn't this what you want? We've already seen tons of stories about this. Here's one from the Detroit News. When men refuse to mentor women, 2018. They say it's called the Mike Pence rule. Why wouldn't men follow the Mike Pence rule? You go into a room and close the door, and now you're going to get in trouble because it's always the man's fault. Think about it. If a man and a woman are equal and they both go into a room, couldn't the man say the woman assaulted him? Doesn't work that way. Another example I've given in the past is this. Very simple. What do you think would happen if you were in your job and one of your buddies, a guy, you're a guy. Let's say you're a guy. Let's say one of your buddies walks up. He's a guy. And you go, geez, Rick, you've been working out. You're looking cut, man. That's a great outfit, by the way. You look good. Geez. Looking great, man. Pat him on the shoulder and say, wow, you've been working out. You're looking good. Regular old compliment. I don't think it's a big deal. In fact, you can take a look at like sporting events where guys slap each other on the butts. Doesn't mean anything. It's not sexual. It's not harassment. It's just, guys being guys, I guess. Maybe you don't like it, don't agree with it, whatever. It happens all the time. A guy walking up to his colleague and being like, patting him on the shoulder and be like, you're doing a great job, man. In this suit, you look fantastic. You're looking great. Now imagine it's a woman. And she walks in and she's wearing a very nice outfit. And he goes, woo, Diane, you've been working out? You're looking great. That outfit, and he pats her on the shoulders like, yeah, you look good. Totally different context. Now, some people have said, Tim, that's still inappropriate to say to a guy. I don't think so. A guy being like, geez, man, that diet's paying off. Let's lighten the load. Let's lighten the load a little bit. A guy sees a guy walk in and he's like, woo, Rick, that diet's been paying off. You dropped a ton of weight. You're looking great, man. That's an outfit. That a new outfit? You got your hair done? Man, respect. Say that to a woman, see what happens. Grab her on the arm, see what happens. You will get in trouble in 2 seconds. Now think about what happens if a woman does it to a guy. A guy walks in and she goes, wow, Jim, you working out? You're looking great. Great suit, by the way. You get your hair cut too? Totally fine. This is the problem. Guys are walking on eggshells and they know it. This is not gender equality. It's only making things worse, I suppose. I'd imagine, and maybe I'm wrong, that if it was 40, 50 years ago, and somebody was brutally stomping out a woman on the street, people would rush in and intervene. Now, 40 or 50 years ago, I guess, 70s. You go back a little bit further, and depending on the race of the individual, and yeah, probably still bad. So it makes me feel like there was this golden age where people actually did care to help others, and we were past the civil rights era. Now, you take a look at where we're at, and it's only going back to the way things were. People won't intervene to help you. People are tons and tons of leftists are racists and pushing these racist policies. Men don't want to be in the same room with women. Jordan Peterson gave an interview to Vice a few years ago where he mentioned he doesn't know if, men and women working together in the workplace actually will be successful. And he said it's only been, 30, 40 years, and it's been a disaster. I thought it was an interesting statement, but he mentions all of the harassment lawsuits, all the complaints, and now things like this. Men don't want to be alone with women at the workplace because of accusations, because of impropriety, because men and women are different. The reason the point to all this, I kind of want to wrap it all together. Men and women are different. And because they're physically different, there are different standards for how they're supposed to behave. We assume that men are supposed to be the ones to rush into the defense of women because taller, more bone density, more muscle mass, a tendency. They won't do that anymore. But men will still be held to that standard if they're alone with women or act inappropriately. You see how this works? I think it's just the fall. It's a big collapse. That's what it feels like. Things don't make sense. Nobody cares about anybody else. Nobody will risk themselves. And thus, we're all in it for ourselves. And if that's the case, no one's going to want a COVID vaccine passport. Nobody's going to care to do any of these things. No one's going to care about you. No one's going to defend you. No one's going to stand up for anything. And in the end, authoritarianism is just going to take over. No one will stick out their neck. No one will speak up. Now, okay, a lot of people are speaking up. I mean, certainly I am, and many of you probably are. But a lot of people refuse to do it because they're cowards. Stop being so humanly. Be more like the brave rooster that would run full speed towards a coyote to protect the chickens. Okay, maybe not every rooster. I had a cowardly rooster when I lived in Miami, but hey, it is what it is. You look to these other animals that we mock and disparage. Chickens, they're so scared. Isn't it funny that we are becoming a bit more pathetic than they are? Okay, they're pretty dumb, I gotta be honest. They're really dumb. Like chickens are really dumb, and they're really good at finding ways to get themselves killed. Okay, humans aren't that dumb. We're actually extremely smart. I get it. But it's because of that we're facing a backfiring. Our own societal norms, which allowed us to develop and grow and succeed, are causing harm to us. Guys, if you see a woman being attacked, you should protect her to the best of your abilities. But you know what? I can't advise that either. I'm not going to give you advice that will get you hurt, and then I'll be held liable either. Isn't it stupid? No. I'm willing to stand up and say it. People, I don't care if you're a man or a woman, if you have the ability to help someone, defend someone, and stop a violent attack, I believe you should do it. But you know what? The responsibility is yours. What's right for you, that's your decision. I wish we cared more about each other. No, these guys just want to sit back and watch someone get beaten because they don't want to risk it for themselves. That's the way it is. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. over at youtube.com/Timcast. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.